Full Reps Baseball. Join us as we dive in with the VP of Jaeger Sports, China McCarney, to discuss everything and anything related to leadership and player development.
Leadership roles are the biggest responsibility on this planet. It's whether it's a coach, teacher, whatever, and if you don't do self-analyzation of why you're in that role often, you can detrimentally affect kids' lives.
With your hosts, Mike Phelps and Scott Swanson.
Mess this up somehow, Mike.
All right, we got China McCarney, VP at Jaeger Sports. First and foremost, I can't thank you enough for being on. I know the athletes are going to get a lot of good insight. I think everybody in the baseball community knows what J bands are these days. So, to be able to have this insight from, somebody on the front lines there and has been in the baseball world, played professionally and so forth. I think it is, I can't thank you enough, and I know the kids can't thank you enough. So if you can kind of give us a little background, leading into, this rabbit hole that we're going to try to go down here, it'd be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First and foremost, thank you guys for having us on. I mean, this is one of the positives. I know there's a lot of negatives we can look at with the pandemic and everything going on. But one of the true blessings of this whole situation is the opportunity to do stuff like this and to have technology where we can be on opposite sides of the country and talk. So thank you guys so much. But just a brief background with my history with Jaeger Sports. I went to my first Jaeger Sports camp when I was 12 years old in 1999. For any of you math majors, I hate you. But fell in love with the program right away. Fell in love with the physical part of the program. And as I started to go up through the levels, get into high school, shout out to Joe Perez, by the way, who I saw was on with you guys. He went to high school with me. How weird is that?
Central Arizona.
Yeah. But as I got into high school and started moving up the levels, I realized the importance of the mental game and the mental training and that aspect with Alan Jaeger, the founder, creator of Jaeger Sports. And so just kind of stayed with him. He was a mentor to me. And as I started to move up, my arms started to open up and I started to be able to launch some things. I traveled around with them, with him and Jim Batcher, the co-owner, and I would do the J-Band demos starting about 16 years old. And then started to get involved with the business a little bit at the end of college. And then after college came on full time and that was 2012. And so the last 8 years have kind of been involved in everything. When I started, we had black bands and 4 boxes in the office. Now we've got 16 colors adult, 15 colors junior, 8 elite. And we've got digital content and all kinds of stuff. So it's been super fun to kind of see the growth and evolution of Jaeger Sports as a company, but in a broader sense, just baseball training as a whole, even just the last 5 to 10 years has been incredible.
Well, perfect, man. Yeah. And obviously, I think the kids are gonna, eat this stuff up. Everybody knows, Jaeger bands and the idea of being able to get this inside information and so forth is going to be unbelievable. So on the, obviously I don't deal with the development side for our athletes. It's more on the outside stuff, the recruiting, the pro stuff and everything like that. But on the development side, obviously you guys, everyone thinks of Jaeger bands as, hey, I'm going to just do my warm up and cool down and so forth. But, you guys have released a lot of new stuff, and I know, it's a whole body thing now. Obviously during this, kids don't have full-on weight rooms and stuff like that in their house. But I'm pretty sure there's a lot of pitchers out there that have a set of J-bands that they can set up on their backyard fence and so forth. Within that, is there any advice that you would give to kids on like, whether it's obviously not a ploy to go out and everybody go buy J-bands, but yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Go buy J-bands because we love them. I mean, our guys use them.
But is there, in your guys' development side and creating that content, are there things that you think that kids should be doing right now, that they don't have baseball facilities, they don't have games, they don't have team practices and so forth?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny because when I was introduced to Jaeger Sports, I was introduced to a program and the J-band was secondary. And it's kind of switched now where J-bands have exploded, which we love, obviously. But we're still built on our foundation of our program, our throwing program, our mental training, and that development. That's where our passion lies. And so, yeah, I mean, if we go into just the basics of why do arm circles and J-bands before you throw, you would never run or sprint without first prepping your legs. That's my best analogy I heard from Alan when I was a young teenager. And he said, why would you ever throw without first prepping your arm? And so if you're listening, just kind of get that into your head that if 8 to 10 minutes of doing arm circles and J-bands before you throw can avoid so many avoidable injuries and just put you in a better position to train. That's a vague answer to that first part. But then right now specifically, you have time. You don't exactly have teammates to throw with or whatnot. And so we actually have an inclement weather throwing program with just the bands if you can't get outside for the winter and whatnot. And that can be implemented right now when you may not be able to get outside or get to your teammates or whatnot. It's more sets of the overhand throwing with the bands to kind of simulate a simulated long toss with the bands. And so, you know, it's not always easy, but there is always an option for you training and development wise, right? And that's usually what separates the great from the good or the great from the average is, yeah, there's excuses right now. And we say, well, I don't have a teammate to throw with. Okay, well, someone's going to figure out how to throw, and they're going to get the scholarship or they're going to be ready to go when we do get the green light. And so a lot of times it just comes down to consistency, preparation, and discipline. And that's kind of what we've tried to do with our content is always have an option based on whatever the circumstances are. And so if you only have a band and somewhere to hook it to, you can simulate a long toss, and then we can grow from there if you have a partner and you can do a whole throwing program or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. It's you know, you mentioned like it's not optimal. Obviously, if you can throw and you can throw, but given certain circumstances, it's almost, you know, using the bands, running through certain progressions as you talked about, you know, almost it bridges the gap with that volume when you don't have that partner, right? So,
right.
You know, on the training side, on the throwing side, you know, it bridges the gap with volume, you know, but it also allows athletes to stay in the know with their body, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is awesome. And yeah, I can't thank you enough for being on here. You know, I know your perspective is, you know, these athletes are going to look at it and they see J-bands everywhere. You know, Mike and I know you're realistically the guy running around shipping all these out, and that's really all you're doing.
These hands.
But just, you know, hearing it from a figure like yourself, you know, just what you guys have done in the baseball world has been awesome. And, you know, again, we appreciate having you. So, you know, so diving in a little bit more, you know, on the developmental side, you know, before kind of talking about, you know, more of what I've seen as an outsider, you know, not that you guys have shifted towards the mental side, but it's been so heavily implemented, you know, with your company and all you guys are doing, and we value it, and, you know, we use it with our guys and think it's super important. But on the development side, can you know, a lot of questions that guys have been asking right now is more so on the recovery side, warm up and recovery. You know, they get confused on what's the difference between a warm up, what's the difference between a recovery. Do you guys have any protocols and programming for that? You know, is there just what's your best way of if you had to describe to an athlete the difference between their warm up and their recovery?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And a lot of it's going to come back to, we have a saying, listen to your arm. That's kind of one of our taglines, and listening to your body. And I got to, I should say, explain it the other day of what does that mean? Somebody asked me, what does listen to your arm mean? Because it's just a sentence. And if you don't explain it, it doesn't really mean anything. And it's really embodies the whole process of getting to know yourself as an athlete. Like you said, this isn't optimal, but if you are doing reps with the bands, you're still maintaining that relationship with your body, your relationship with your arm, and feeling what you need. And so warm up in particular, in terms of arm circles, J-bands, it's a little bit of a trial and error. It doesn't take very long, but it could take a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks when you're implementing it. How many reps feels good on the 9 checkpoints with the arm circles? How many reps feels good? I was a 15 guy with the reps on the J-bands, and we preached 25. So I'm one of the people that's been here for 20 whatever years, and I didn't get up to 25 because 15 at the tension that I got to felt really good. And so I figured out what I needed for myself with the arm circles, with the J-bands. I incorporated weighted balls, different podcast. But I incorporated that, and I knew when I picked up the ball to start my long toss before going into the pen, I knew what I needed. And so I can't give a perfect answer to each individual, but I can say if you do it and you're consistent with it, your body will tell you what it needs. But you got to do arm circles, you got to do J bands before you throw, because that's like stretching your legs. You get blood flow, heat, range of motion. You activate the throwing specific muscle groups so that when you do pick up that ball to throw, you're so much more prepped to do so, and you're going to be ready to train and be healthier, which in turn will help with your recovery. Segue, pro, I guess. It'll help with your recovery because you're not going to have as much atrophy, buildup, inflammation, all that stuff, because you've prepped and got blood flow, range of motion going. And then for our recovery, so we have internal and external. We all know those, right? We do all three of the external J-band exercises for our recovery. So if we have an aggressive long toss day or an aggressive pen day, or as a position player, an aggressive in and out day or whatnot, if you've done some form of, higher intensity throwing, we always recommend doing the external exercises minimum. We would love if you would do all the exercises with maybe 10 to 12 reps, closer to the fence, to just all for the reasons of blood flow, range of motion, all those things that are going to heal. We've run pulls forever. What are pulls about? Heating up the body, getting blood flow going, right?
That's a whole nother podcast as well.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is specifically to the muscles and the little ligaments and the groups that you used during the act of throwing, doing that right after. So our protocol, the basic one we would always advise after our guys through at camps, is do the 3 exercises, 15 to 20 reps, external rotation, elevated external, and reverse throwing motion. And it's just going to help speed up the recovery and get you ready for that next day or next throwing session.
Yeah, because nobody, as hard as you throw and as good as you are, if you can't come back, what does it matter, right?
Right, exactly.
It's I love it, man. It's why, for me, I think when I was probably in diapers when Alan started the company, but as a training center here, like our philosophies, I think it's what led us to us being on this podcast meeting for the first time. Our first principles are our philosophies. I mean, you nailed it. They align. You can't prescribe to an athlete, a monolithic program, right? Because everyone's different. There's a lot of similarities with human beings, but we can't deny there's differences. So, going to creating your own feel, what that is, that's huge. And for you, you created your own feel, and routine. And it's, we think it's important that you do that because that's going to change. If you stick to a monolithic, that's going to change. It's going to change in season, off season. It's going to change if you're battling an injury or if you're on the 15-day DL. And how are you going to be able to adapt? Well, you got to start with kind of creating your own and feeling that. And I think that segues into, the bigger part. And if I had a guess, it's why you guys have, really done so much awesome stuff on, on the mental preparation side. It's how do you create your own warm up? How do you create your own feel? How do you know? Well, you got to dig into a deeper self. Like you need to, you really need to, find your inner peace, go past, all the surface levels of what's going on, what the coaches are saying. And for me, I've been able to do that in life as, as a father, husband, a business owner. A coach is through meditation and yoga. So let's dive into it, dude. When did it all start? Has it always been there? Is it, when have you guys really started? When did you guys really start incorporating that mental side? And what is that mental side that, that you guys are focusing on right now? Because I know we've seen it. It's all over the place. We've seen you guys go in with universities, big universities, pro teams, and really, really implement some good stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's funny because Alan founded Jaeger Sports in 1991 on the principle of mental. What was that?
I was 1 year old.
There you go. Diapers. You were right. But yeah, he founded it in 1991 on the principles of mental training first and foremost. That was his passion based on his experiences as a player and in life. And that is what he dove into head first and became an expert on mental training, Zen, Buddhism, meditation, that whole world. And when he first started, I mean, we're talking early 90s, it was like, get away from me. Like, you know, if you got to do meditation or yoga or something, you're something's wrong with you, right? And then, so he'd always had a passion for throwing and always long toss and everything. And so he started incorporating that into the training sessions. And I haven't talked to him about this, and if he sees this, he'll probably be like, that it's incorrect. But to me, it was probably marketing and business necessity to attach the physical to the mental, because who's going to come to a camp for just stuff that was kind of like standoffish at that time, and that was like observed as if you had a problem. And so it kind of evolved that way. And then it's been really, really fun the last 5 years especially, but even in the last 10 years, is now if you don't have a mental coach or you don't do some sort of mental training, now you're the weird one, right? Mm-hmm. Where before it's like if you had a sports psychologist or if you had something like that, you were weird. Now it's the opposite. And so it's kind of evolved that way. And we've done so much in the throwing arena and have seen, based on the years, our data is experience, right? And I allude, like going back to your earlier point about getting to know your arm and getting to know all this stuff, it's come up with me in the last, I'd say 3 or 4 months, where people want to know exactly what to do. How many throws? When you want to know exactly what to do, especially with something like a physical regimen, that's laziness to me, because you're not willing to do the work yourself and figure out what your body needs to be the best version of yourself, right? And so have fun with the process. That's the fun of athletics, is figuring out the journey of what you need. Study everything and get as much advice as you can, but any program that's going to tell you you need to do 10 throws at this distance, move back, this and that, and
hold on. So time out. So you're saying like I know when I was with the Cubs, it was like 8 at 45, 8 at 60, 8 at 8. It's in play 8, 8, 7, 7, 6, 5, 5, and that was our throwing program at 15 feet increments. And it's like, you know, it's. I think these days though, these kids are so entitled in that idea to where it's. And again, I think a lot of times, like as coaches, we fall into that realm. Well, how many pitches should I throw, or this or that? You know, we give them that safety net almost to where it's like, you know, and then at that point when it doesn't work, there's an easy finger to point. You know, and they're, you know, when you get to pro ball, in the minor leagues, as we all know, there's still minor league organizations that if we want to say the old school way, they still do. We'll leave their names out of this, but it does go on. But when you're in the big leagues, it's, you know, at the end of the day, this is these kids' careers. And, you know, I know we're talking mental and physical aspects of this, but it truly, like, you have to take your own career into your own hands. And that's the only way success truly is going to happen. You don't see a businessman who's going to try to own a business one day say, hey, how many papers should I write? Or what should my business plan look like? You know, it's you know, Swanee says it all the time. Like, you know, baseball is the metaphor of life. Mm-hmm. And the opportunity of being able to create that for each individual is unbelievable.
Right. And it's a difficult task as a business owner, and like, figuring out, you want to give freedom because that's what you believe in, but you also have to survive as a business, and there's financial aspects, right? So you have to have a program to sell to the individual. And so that's where it gets a little difficult. Alan's throwing manual, right? The year-round throwing manual, which is incredible, goes over every single part of the year. Every question he's basically gotten for 25 years, he put it into this manual. Well, he had so many questions over the years about how often, how this. He actually has a schedule in the throwing manual, day by day, of how many throws it should be. And then it's every single day has a disclaimer at the bottom. These are loose guidelines, like, figure it out for yourself and everything. But it was such a prevalent question and such a desire of the consumer to have everything done for them that, you know, he tried to do it in the best way based on all of the information he has in his head about all the guys he's taken through throwing programs. He put the basic averages, the law of averages, into that schedule. But it's been one of the things that's been getting me, you know, hot and heavy lately, where it's like, you can't have everything done for you. And I have that written down on my phone, is wanting everything done for you, or wanting to be told exactly how you should do everything, is a form of laziness or something like that. And it's the same thing with mental training. Mental training more so is, especially in today's world, if you don't put in the work, no one can help you. Bottom line. And that's, I mean, same thing in baseball. If you don't take the reps and you don't do the work, you're not going to get everything out of your career. But in the mental game, because of its impact on not just your athletic career, but you as a human being and you in life, you have to put in the time. And it's very hard to put in the time where you can't see a tangible skill. If you work out and you take BP, you hit the ball farther. If you do meditation and you do this, there's not like some magical thing where you get these results that you can see out in front of you. But if you do it enough, the tangible results, you'll start to feel them and you'll start to notice them and you'll be like, wow, it's way more clear. Or that guy cut me off and I didn't react because I'm more calm and I'm more at peace and I'm more centered. And then other days, you might give him a finger or two and send him on his way. But
allow them to find their own version of success. And,
right.
I mean, when you're looking at the game of baseball and, we know there's no shortcuts and, you have to play the long game, especially on the development side. We talk about all the time, you have to accept those nonlinearities. And if the coach is prescribing the program and it's monolithic and they're following exactly, you're what you want to achieve and what you're doing doesn't align. And, there comes the issue. And, like you mentioned it, you nailed it, to the consumer, you can't just say, go to feel with this. You need to have some sort of manual, right, that has a disclaimer, because if you're just going to feel, just as we think it comes off as, it does, being lazy to the athlete when we're just prescribing, well, to the consumer who's paying us, lots of money, it comes off to us that, those guys don't, those guys are just saying go to field, because that's the easiest thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
right.
the battle of like the easiest thing to do and what's best, and it's always kind of finding that balance. But I mean, you did nail it, and I know it's something that you guys have always stuck to, and it's allowing the athlete in order to find their role or find their inner self. It's really, as a coach, what you guys are doing, you're facilitating and educating, right? You're allowing that athlete, we posted something the other day just about like cueing, like over cueing, and there's value to cueing, but at the same time, if you're cueing and you're stopping, you're blocking that athlete from receiving the sensory information that they need to form, their own patterns and whatnot, you're almost monolithic programming and that stuff. It's almost, in a sense, it could be more harmful, so yeah, it's cool. I love that you guys give all your athletes, that freedom to explore. If they go too far off track, it's our job to educate and facilitate, but it's never to make a decision, right, for these athletes.
Right.
And I've read, in all the manuals, I mean, Alan, and you're even, yourself, content you've created and stuff, you guys do such a good job of, I don't want to say always throwing in that disclaimer, but like always nailing it, but then also always going back to your basics of, it comes down to you. Napoleon Hill said it, like, desire is the starting point for all achievement. If you don't have desire, go home,
Right. Right. And just on that point, because it just hit me while you're speaking right there, is where it's difficult for a business to kind of toe that line of giving freedom while also doing that. When we can be so finite in the way we convey our message because we train individual athletes for the most parts, right? And so coaches have a difficult task to run a group of athletes and create a culture and create everybody on the same page trying to achieve the same thing. That takes a little bit of rigidity. It takes rules. It takes a lot of structure, right? But the greatest coaches can allow the freedom of the individual within that culture. And I think that's the most difficult time. And I think a lot of times that's why guidelines are put. And that, can be another form of laziness is, look, I don't know how to make a plan for all these individual athletes. So I'm just going to say, you guys have 10 minutes to throw at 120 feet and go do it, right? Because now I'm done. I did arm care for the day. I can go sit on the bucket. I'm good. But if you can allow the freedom, it's the same commitment as the coach to say, hey, you have 30 to 40 minutes to go throw however far you need. And figure it out and introduce to them the first couple of weeks what long toss is and arm care is and the importance of it. Give them the guidelines, give them the structure, and then it's on them to maximize that for the team. If the culture is hard work and you're trying to achieve the same things anyway, it's on them, and they'll be disciplined if they're not working hard. And you'll be able to tell if you give them 30 minutes and they're done in 8 and didn't go past 150 feet, then there's a problem with the athlete. And so I think that's always a difficult thing with the coaches, where it's like, well, I can't give freedom because then this, and then they go to this rigid program, but it's actually the same effort as a coach to get, hey, go do this or go do this. It's the same 3 words. It's just a little different structure in their head. That just hit me while you were talking about like that kind of the freedom topic and how it can just be confusing at times, when in reality it's very, very simple.
And I think a lot of times within kids, like they're so scared to fail in a game that is built on failure. You know, I mean, we were talking with we had a West Coast scout with the St. Louis Cardinals on here, and you know, I mean, it's true. 22,000 people have ever made it to the big leagues. Like in the history of Major League Baseball, only 22,000. So like, you know, you said it perfect. We're not even in baseball. Like kids are going after non-tangible objects. You know, a scholarship, a draft pick. You know, the opportunity of failure is immensely within that. Like, you give everything you got, or what you think you're giving, for something that might not even happen. You know, it's a lot different than I say, hey, go pick up dog poop for the next year, and I'm going to go buy you a car. Well, you can see that car.
Right.
It's a lot different than seeing a scholarship. You know, how, like, obviously in the mental side of stuff and so forth, like, you know, obviously with failure being all over the place, and obviously in a time right now, you know, people, you know, we're worried about guys maintaining even just velocity, where people are losing their jobs and even lives. But on the baseball mindset within the failure aspect, you know, are there, you know, I don't expect every kid to go, you know, sitting out butt naked in his bathroom and meditate for 30 minutes every day. But
although it is highly recommended.
You know, what is like, are there good, like, I don't, we said cues, but tips and stuff for people to be able to deal with that adversity, to deal with that failure, to understand that, hey, not every pitch is going to be great. Not every swing is going to be great. You know, you're going to fall flat on your face, and you got to fail before you succeed realistically in this game anyways. Are there tips based off of what you guys have been doing on the mental side and so forth, to be able to give kids kind of a little bit of insight of, you know, you are going to suck. And
yes.
It's not about getting knocked down. It's about how you get back up.
Yeah, no, absolutely there is. And it's something that changed my life. And I want to go back to my 18-year-old self. It hit me at about 23. Yes. And it's called, for us, it's called the process, right? And it's become, I heard the process so long before the Philadelphia 70. It's become this, you know, magic thing now that everybody says it, but we'll break it down in the truest sense. But if I could have had this earlier, I can remember the bullpen at 22, 23, where I did the process on every single pitch. I was like, what? No, like I freaked out. I was like, why didn't I do this for so long? But basically it's a pitch to pitch process, and it's 3 to 4 things that you can control every single pitch, no matter what, whether you're a hitter, position player, and it all starts with the breath, which we can get into the more intricacies of the mental training. But the breath is the foundation. Like a good base in the physical side and good footwork is the foundation of that. The breath is the foundation of mental training, because the breath is always happening now. The breath can bring us back to the present moment. And if you get really good, same thing, you got to develop a relationship with your breath. If you get really good at taking a deep breath, it sends relaxation signals to the brain and can ground you, okay? So we start the process with the breath, basically regardless. And this is another thing where no one's going to tell you what your process needs to be. I'm just going to give you our basic examples, and then you can develop it as a player into what you need. But as a pitcher, our basic one is deep breath, focal point, attack, right? Because those are 3 things I have control over. I can take a deep breath, I can get my focal point based on the pitch, and I can attack with fastball mentality. It doesn't matter if there's scouts in the stands. It doesn't matter if I've given up 4 runs. It doesn't matter anything. I can have that pitch to pitch process every single time. As a hitter, deep breath, see the ball well, and attack. And attack doesn't mean swinging every time, but your intent is to swing every time. And so you're attacking with swing intent, but watching the ball pass if it's not a good pitch. And so those are basic things just in terms of performance during the competition that kind of embodies the bigger picture of mental training, whether it's life, if I have a test, what's my process when I get up this morning before we talk, before we hop on here, so that we're prepared to have a good discussion and share stuff with athletes. It's what can you control and can you get better at leaving the things you can't control, which I'm not great at yet. And I've only been doing it for however many years I've been with Jaeger Sports. And I suffer from anxiety. I've dealt with panic attacks. I have a mental health foundation, and it's something I struggle with still. But the times that I'm having the most fun in life and when I'm focused in the present moment and not worried about anything, it's called, we've heard about the flow or being in the zone. And that's kind of all it is you're worried about what you can control and you're letting your talent, your instincts and all that take over. And that's when we kind of have the most fun in life.
Well, kind of it goes. I mean, it's awesome information for all our athletes listening. If they're not diving in too deep and taking some of this, I certainly will, because just like you and many other adults, I think we hold our athletes to a certain standard. But realistically, if we're not as coaches honest with ourselves, because I've for years battled anxiety and depression as well, and I mean you nailed it. I mean, how do you overcome that? For me, it's been through meditation, self-talk, being honest, because let's be real, the easiest person to fool in life is yourself. So it's awesome. I mean, that's awesome information. Like I said, if our athletes aren't listening to that, I'm certainly gonna take that advice too.
Yeah, and and we can I can give a basic, we won't do it, but I can give the basic, fundamental mental practice that we have for your athletes. Basically, if you can give yourself 5 to 10 minutes, let's say to start 3 days a week, if you could do it every day, great. But we all have 5 to 10 minutes, right? And if you can give yourself 10 minutes, just get still, right? This is our basic mental practice. This is what we do on our first day camps. And I will, after I explain the practice, explain exactly how it correlates to performance, to life, to distraction, to everything, right? So let's just say we have a 10-minute window right now. If you can lay down, get still, shoes off preferably, anything that kind of takes your senses, like crossing your fingers, no, just get as still as you can for 2 minutes. That's all your focus is, just laying down, getting comfortable so that you're committed to the now, committed to that moment, right? For the next 2 to 4 minutes, focus on your breath. So with an inhale, 1, exhale 2, inhale 3, exhale 4, so on and so forth. The fun part about this, especially if you've never done it, when you first try to do this, good luck counting, because your brain will be like, wait a minute, you're giving me a chance to attack you right now with all the things you got to do? You got to pick up the dog poop to get that new car. You've got to do this. You've got to do that. That's the practice. If you lose your number, it's okay. Go back to 1 and start. And you'll notice there's a tangible result. Over the time that you do it over the next few weeks, your number will be higher all of a sudden because you can commit to your breath. And a thought might come up, but it's okay. It's like, that's all right. I know that thought's there, but I'm back to number 5. I'm back to number 6, right? And we go there. So 2 to 4 minutes, that gets you through 6. 2 minutes, let your breath go and just be with the peace. Just be with the silence so that you're not focusing, because we are competitors, right? And so if we focus on the number too much, it might become a counting exercise and not a breathing or meditation exercise. And then 2 minutes of just transitioning out. So that's simple. 2 minutes, get still, 2 to 4 minutes counting, 2 minutes just being still, enjoying the silence, 2 minutes coming out. That's our basic mental practice. That's the article Alan wrote a long time ago, how 10 minutes a day doing mental practice can change your career and your life, something like that. I probably just made the title better than it actually is. But
we won't tell Alan.
If you do that 10 minutes, I don't think he titled it. He would have titled it like that. But that 10 minutes can change your life. And then here is the part, when people hear mental training and athletics, oftentimes we talk about mental training and we talk about the results, and then we talk about athletics, but we don't bring the two together to show the consumer, show the athlete how they coincide with one another, right? So while you're laying down, doing that exercise, and you're trying to commit to your breath, trust me, it still happens to me to this day, your brain will bring up all the things that's been at the back of your head. So you have to get the car wash. You haven't talked to your sister. You haven't done this. All this stuff will start to come at your brain. The training is being able to go back to the breath and not engage with those thoughts. It's not about not having those thoughts because we're human. They're going to be there. It's about not engaging them and getting back to the breath. That is how it translates to performance. If I'm on the mound and I'm committing to my process, pitch to pitch, okay? All of a sudden, there's thoughts coming up. The situation is big. There's scouts in the stands. If I don't do all that stuff, it's not about not having those thoughts. It's about not engaging with those thoughts and getting back to the process, getting back to your breath. That's how you practice the mental game for tangible results while you're performing. It's not about just laying down and getting at peace, which is amazing. It's one of the greatest feelings in life. But we're talking about improving our performance as an athlete or anything else in life. But right now we're focusing on athletics. This is the way you practice it. And the better you can get at not engaging with those thoughts and getting back to controlling what you can on that pitch, which in meditation, the only thing that you can control is your breath. That's how the two coincide, the correlation between it. And if you trust me, trust us, give yourself that 10 minutes. Start with 10 minutes a day for 3 days a week. Not a big time commitment. You will start to see those tangible results. You'll see it pay off, and it's going to do wonders for you far and away more than just you as a baseball player and athlete. It's going to help your relationships, help with enjoying the day-to-day moments in life. And that's kind of my longest winded answer, but just to explain the relationship.
Yeah, dude, it's precise, and I mean, you guys again just do such a great job of taking baseball, pitching, throwing, hitting. It's complex movement, right? It's nonlinear. It's complex. And how do we develop guys? Well, you got to take on that complex stuff and boil it down to its fundamentals. And that's why we always say baseball is a metaphor for life, because to tie in, how do you tie in the mental side with the performance side? Oh, realistically, you got to sharpen. You got to be a better version of yourself, right? Because the circular effects in life and baseball are huge. What you do in the classroom, it's going to have some sort of impact on what you do on the field, and vice versa. So yeah, I guess I can say, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's sharpening your saw. That's how you get better. And you guys have done it through various meditation, yoga, the mental side, and it's it kind of ties into, going back to what we talked about in the beginning, just the program inside and feeling comfortable and getting out of that lazy self, but also having fun, right? Like, how do you have fun? This is a lot. Like, even when, it's stressful trying to you want these guys to figure it out, but then when you ask especially a high school athlete or a college athlete, when they feel like they're drinking, water out of a fire hydrant all day with so much stuff coming at them. Now you're saying they're coming to us looking for all the answers, right? But now you're saying, oh, but you kind of got to figure it out on their own. That stresses them out even more sometimes. We've noticed. So what we like to do is just, like you nailed, really, really letting them self-explore, but also facilitating and giving them some information. But letting their imagination game play part of it. I mean, I can say this for a fact. There's, we'll go through an assessment, right? Our PT is phenomenal, on the physical side, the functional side. We'll assess all their physical constraints, look at structural adaptation, try and get it as close as we can to individualized as possible. And then we'll do all the, for us, mostly we deal with throwers, so we'll get them on, we'll do a mechanical efficiency screening, do all that fun stuff, all the technology, all the bells and whistles, and then we come up with a plan. But we're coming up with a plan, so there's always human bias, but I can see this, with 100% honesty. There's never been a time where I've implemented a program with an athlete one-on-one on the floor where I just read from a program that I wrote, because what we're doing as coaches is we're out there, we're watching them, and I mean, by the time that implementation is done, I mean, it's all scribbled, it's like, nope, he didn't receive any feedback from that, and it's it just goes into looking at the business side too, right, and trying to prep athletes, it kind of ties into the whole, the whole mind frame, the whole mindset of the coach and the athlete. You're trying to create a mutually beneficial relationship, and they're coming to us, right, and they're giving us the freedom to to help them in their development and their career. Well, we're gonna give you the same. We're gonna give you the same, and if you don't want it, we're not the place for you.
Right. And I think there's a Ken Ravizza quote that the athlete will not care about what comes out of your mouth until they know that you care about them.
Yeah.
And I think that's the fun part is you create that relationship. You both have the same goal, coach, player. It's the player's development to be the best version of himself. Same with the coach. And that's the fun part. And it is freedom, and freedom can be overwhelming, but the right kind of freedom is freedom within a system and within guidelines of structure put in place to help you get better. It's not true sense of freedom where it's just go do whatever you can and there's going to be detrimental things they're doing. It's freedom, like you said, under the structure. It's informed freedom, I guess we could say, where the player's free to evolve and to improve within the structure based on our knowledge and all the years we've done and all the data that you have. And so I think that's the fun part. And
yeah, too, man. Like, as a coach, my wife, she will definitely not be listening. But she always says to me, it's like, when are you going to grow up and get a real job? Like you're with athletes all the time. I'm sure you guys have heard it. When are you going to grow up and get a real job to face reality? And she says it in a joking manner.
Yeah.
But for me,
it's
coaching,
not really joking.
Probably not. She's our rock in our family. Like I'm sure your significant others are. But for me, like coaching, the athlete, when they give us the ability to be free, I take it and run with it, because that experimentation, like that ability to have fun with this, it brings me back to my childhood, and as a child, I mean, you're curious, I got a 2-year-old right now, and he's constantly exploring, but over time, you progress through life, you go from toddler, you go through school and systems, you have different different parents have different parenting strategies, but somewhere along the way you lose yourself, or a lot of people do, they lose their identity, and it's shaped by other forms. So, for me, coaching, specifically has brought me back to the earliest days of just having fun, having fun. And, for me, I'm fortunate enough to make it into a career,
Yeah. Huge blessing.
Yeah, and we use that term coach so light, so everybody throws it. Oh, I'm a coach. Well, I mean, realistically, I mean, parents are giving us the opportunity to, for most kids, a kid isn't coming into our facility just to, most kids aren't coming in just to sit there and say, I just want to play high school baseball. You're not spending that kind of money. You're not traveling all over the U.S. You're not worrying about your mental training as a baseball player if all you want to do. So, we're ultimately, we're coaches, but and I say this a lot to people, I live in Iowa, and people are like Iowa, like, is there even really baseball in Iowa? And but like, we're truly given the opportunity to take a young man who doesn't have guidance, who doesn't have a plan within the baseball world, and turn their dreams truly into reality. I know you guys have worked with big leaguers, you've worked with minor leaguers, you've worked with kids who probably can't chew gum and walk at the same time. And we all have.
There's so much room through the learning phases for them to grow.
Awesome. That's right.
But it's that idea of being able to help them, get to that next step. Teachers at school all day are sitting there teaching kids to get smarter for the next grade, and educators work every day to help kids to be able to survive in life on an educational mindset. Some are better than others, just as some coaches are better than others. But to have this opportunity, not only, to physically work with an athlete, but then to provide him information like what you just gave. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Like, hearing you say this, like, I want to go back to 2005 when I was drafted by the Cubs, and sit there and be like,
just take a breath. Just take a breath.
I would have been in the big leagues. Yeah. And it's funny, like, I'm fortunate enough my little brother is in the big leagues. He's just finished his 8th year, going into his 9th. And, and to be able to see the difference of how he handles not only the adversity aspect and shit, if I gave up a run, I'm coming into the locker room, I'm breaking something. You know, he gives up a 2-run jack and he's sending me gifts and on my phone, like making fun of himself. And I'm like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
But it really differentiates the good and the great. You know, who's going to be a college athlete and who's going to be a big leaguer, or who's going to be a minor leaguer and who's going to be a big leaguer. You know, it is being able to hear this and that insight is unbelievable for, you know, I know our athletes and, you know, obviously we don't force a lot of things on kids, but it is taking their training to a whole new level. And, you know, to be able to get this, I know I can't thank you enough. And I know me and Swanee are going to be, when we're allowed to hop on airplanes, we are definitely coming out to California. We gotta see some people, but we're definitely going to be hitting you guys up and definitely coming by for sure.
Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. We have a little miniature golf course in the office we can set up and have some fun.
What is this, Dude Perfect?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, I wanted to, on that last point, I've done mental health podcasts, and when the coaching topic comes up or leadership, I get so passionate because I think leadership roles are the biggest responsibility on this planet. It's whether it's a coach, teacher, whatever. And if you don't do self-analyzation of why you're in that role often, you can detrimentally affect kids' lives and the development and their mental health. And if you're in it for ego or anything other than the development and the care for the people that you're leading, there's a problem. And I always, whenever it comes up, I like just saying that. So if there's any coaches or if there's players that one day become in a position of power over anyone, leadership, coach, or anything, it is a responsibility and it's a blessing and something that should be taken so seriously, because oftentimes we can fall into a position of power because of experience or because of this, and then we don't give the attention to detail necessary for the development of the player. We don't give them the sense that there's an outlet if something's going wrong with them. And I think that's where kids start to hide stuff. That's what happened with me. Like, my whole thing was I didn't want anybody to think I was weak because I had anxiety. And so I hid it. And I wasn't some looking back, but there was some that I definitely was not in an environment where I felt okay seeking help. And that's scary. And so it just hit me when you were talking about like the coaches and the leadership of how just valuable and what an impact you can have. And I think as coaches, if we can all just look at that on a daily basis of how fortunate we are to get to lead young men or young women, to help them try to achieve dreams. Like, how cool is that? Like, that's a blessing. And we just gotta, we're gonna have bad days. Everybody has bad days, but just try to look at it, doing it for the right reasons, and create that culture for an athlete that if they are struggling, they have somewhere to go. And athletes listening, don't ever feel like you don't have somewhere to go. If you are struggling with anything, hopefully you're in an environment where the coach is a human being and not a scary figure, and you can talk to them. And even if they can't help you directly because it's not in their education or whatnot, they can point you in the right directions or have the soul and have the care for you to be like, hey, I don't know how to help you, but I'm going to help find where a place that can help you. So that just tickled one of those heartstrings I had to
and it's the reason it's the reason we're doing this. And obviously, you know, with you know, and it sucks that it took the idea of a pandemic to reach out and you know, there were always podcasts, but you know, I mean, let's be honest, did anybody know who the hell Zoom was before March? You know, I mean, realistically, yeah, we knew what FaceTime, everybody knew what Skype was, but like now you say Zoom meeting, it's like it's been around for 20 years, but I didn't know what Zoom was before March.
Yeah.
And you know, it's, you know, people are like, oh, well, like, are you gonna stop? I guess you can say getting information and talking to coaches and coaches and people, you know, talking with you, talking with the guys over at Cressy, talking with Kyle Bodie, you know, obviously I think we all know Bleecker, you know, I mean, I don't know if there's enough storage on any computer to have Bleecker talk, because we might be here for a while.
Well, then if you have Bleecker and Allen on, you might need a couple of external hard drives.
But it's, you know, to be able to, you know, I think too many people do it. You said it. as an ego trip. It's an Instagram booster. It makes them look good, where realistically, I mean, let's be honest, guys, we're all washed up athletes. We're not, I can't go pick up a ball.
Team of misfits, we call it.
Yeah. Like I can't go pick up a ball and throw 98 anymore. It sucks. It sucks looking at an 18-year-old kid, and I can't really talk trash too much because they all throw harder than I do. But at the same point, it's like to be able to have a platform and have, when you do care, when you do, when you do have that heart to be able to sit there and say, you know what, I want to see those dreams become reality. I want to see, there's nothing better. And I know you guys have had it also, when you get those phone calls and said, hey, I just got my first scholarship offer. Or, I was fortunate enough this year, a player I coached went 18th overall in the draft, and sitting at that house and that hug, like, I mean, I'll be honest. And I cried like a little damn baby that day, just the pure emotion and watching, like, oh my God, all this hard work just became, I mean, he's a millionaire now. And it's like, he's a place that, like, every kid who plays baseball that wants to make it to the next level just became a reality. And that's their dream. And, to be able to have this platform and to be able to have these relationships and connections and have that, as you said, that care and that want to be able to help, yes, we've done a lot of these and so forth, but, and then again, a lot of it's on a recruiting aspect and so forth. And that's going to help kids in the actual baseball world, but truly to be able to help kids in not just the baseball world. This is definitely something that I can't say thank you enough. I know you're in SoCal and you're taking time out of your work and life and so forth to be able to give this kind of input. And I know, even as Swanee said it, even if the damn kids don't watch it, I know it's going to help me. I'm going to go lay down on the floor here as soon as we click off.
Yeah.
It validates, I mean, you guys have again done a great job. You're extremely passionate, and it just, there's, hearing you speak, I mean, like Mike said, with your guys' schedule, where your company is at right now, for you to carve out an hour of your time to talk to us, whether we don't have a huge following, it validates a lot of truth in what you're saying, and how much you can see it, how much you've experienced and your personal experience through anxiety, and how important this is, not only to you, but, to your company. And when kids see, again, J-Bands, and, it's easy for them to say, oh, if J-Band does it, like, we should probably do it. So it's, we appreciate it a lot. And, we're definitely going to be continuing to reach out to you guys. From
the sounds of it, it sounds like this is only part one, because we got to talk about weighted balls, we got to talk about running,
bolts. Yeah.
Well, business, financials.
Yeah. I mean, we got to go find some sponsors now.
Yeah, we're going to use you guys. I mean, we're going to use you guys for our athletes, because, we think it'll add a tremendous value, because, if there's one side that we lack, with being a newer company, we've only been around for 3 years, trying to get everything established, trying to get athletes in. We definitely lack the mental training side. The physical side is phenomenal. The assessment side is phenomenal. The tech's great. We throw in the mental side here and there with growth mindset segments on Friday nights. But now that we've kind of had some time to shut down, we're rebooting, some of our internal processes. Like, that mental side is going to be huge for us. So I can't thank you enough, dude.
Yeah, no, thank you guys both. And, when Alan sent the connection email, he'll send the connection email. So a little behind the curtain look, hope he's not watching the end. He'll send the connection email, and then he'll send another email about the person he's sending. So I get a little bit of a background and the praises he had for you guys, and then just being on you, spending an hour and just feeling the passion and what you guys do and what you believe in. And like I said in my little rant about coaches and leadership, it just, you guys breed passion, and this is not like taking an hour. This is what we love to do. This isn't taking an hour out of our day. This is, I get to do this today, is how I feel. I'm so pumped. Now I got to go package J-Bands, but this was incredible. And this is what the community of athletics is all about. This is what life's all about to me, is sharing. And like Zoom, what an incredible technology, to where we can get, face to face and have these discussions. And I just am so appreciative of both of you to let me be on a program that Joe Perez, the pitching coach, I got to give him crap. I hope you watch this, Joe. He lived with me for a bit. We lived at each other's houses when we were in high school. I was a senior, he was a sophomore, and he was such a stud. And I saw his name on there and it gave me goosebumps because life happens and he's married, he's got a little baby, and we don't stay in touch as much as we can. But when I was reading all the names and I was starting to get nervous, and then I saw Joe and I was like, I got this. Thanks, Joe.
No, like I said, you know, I've gotten to meet Joe through some connections, obviously in the recruiting world. You know, what he's doing down there is unbelievable at the college. I'm not going to speak on Joe's behalf, but they're doing. I can't imagine him being there much longer.
Oh yeah.
With you know, opportunities are going to open up, but yeah, I mean, you know, getting to know Joe and all you guys, and realistically on a platform, it's like baseball is such a small community, and you know, the guys who do care and the guys who want it and you know, want to help, it's easy. It's not. We don't like. We sit here and like. We don't feel like this is real work. Like we're sitting here just hanging out, like chit-chatting. And the same thing we're going to do when we come out to LA. You know, there might be different cocktails in front of us, but at the same point, like it's going to be the same thing. And you know, again, like, you know, for all those kind words for us, obviously it means the world for us. And I know the kids are going to be extremely thankful. And I'm pretty sure when you see an influx of sales and deliveries going to the Harrisburg, Camp Hill area, you're going to know why now.
I'll send you guys screenshots of them all, and we're open books at Jaeger Sports. Anyone that listens or watches, you know, Alan's incredible on Twitter.
Yep.
Incredible. And I have my social media is all just my name, China McCarney. And if there's questions, that's what we love to do. That's our passion. And so if you're listening and you had a question that we didn't address, you can always reach out to us directly. And that's the fun part, or share any fun pictures with J-Benz. Alan will tweet them out with "You rock, bro," and all that good stuff. So I appreciate you guys so much. And this is just the beginning, and we'll keep a line of communication going and see what else we can do and play golf when we can leave our homes.
Oh, for sure. You don't want to see Swanee play golf, but yeah.
I can figure it out.
You'll be on my best ball team. I'll carry you.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah, you and Alan versus me and Swanee.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'll end our side as personal little bonus content here. But for all those listening, you know, us as coaches, again, we always say practice what you preach. And, you know, we hold athletes to a high standard, but, you know, we practice what you preach gets misinterpreted too, right? And it's practicing it. Practicing what you preach doesn't mean do what you preach. It means, you know, practice it every day. There's going to be times where you're not doing what you're preaching. Personal question, throwing you guys out there on the hot seat. Within your company, do you guys have like a daily meditation that you guys do, or is it kind of all on your own?
It's personal. It's on our own. We did, we're developing a whole mental training digital content. And so there's only 3 of us typically in the office at a time. Right now there's 1 of us at a time, but Jim Batcher, when he was developing that was some of the best 2 or 3 weeks, because we did it basically every day while we were developing it.
Once it's developed, make sure you send it to us. We'll go.
Yes. Oh, 1,000%. But no, for me, I do it at home before bed. My fiance, wife to be, should have been this year, going to be next year now. But she owns 2 yoga studios. She's massive into meditation and stuff. So I'm fortunate to where it's kind of part of our thing, part of our routine. And it's not where if I'm meditating, she's like, why are you doing that? Or this and that. She like wants me to do it. And
when my wife comes in the bathroom and finds me, she just shakes her head.
So is that where the being naked for 30 minutes in the bathroom meditating came from Phelps?
Oh, there might have been a visual that was painted in his head that you know.
But yeah, we should have it firmly kind of part of our culture, because the customer calls after when we did those digital, or when we were doing that practice, we were a lot. I mean, we're always cheery, but, you know, it's just more present. You just feel so much more clear-minded, and you can answer the questions and whatnot. But
Well, I'm going to be
short answer is no. For the legal answer, we do not have it as mandated.
I know I'm driving out to PA here to go back be with the guys here, and I'll take a picture because I'm pretty sure like as soon as Swanee walks through that door, he's going to go to the employees. All right, starting tomorrow, mandatory.
We're going to put it on the schedule, but it's up to you guys. It's on
there you go.
Your hands. It's in your hands.
We can do a whole nother one of these about visualization and like the next layers, because that's the fundamental and the base of the mental practice, and then it gets pretty gnarly with meditation and all kinds of good stuff. But that's for another day for sure.
Yep. Love it.
Awesome, guys.
Perfect. Well, hey, you be safe out there. And then, yeah, when all this opens up, we're definitely coming out and be ready. You better start practicing now because my golf game, I'll brag a little bit on it.
I roll out of bed shooting par, so let's go.
well, you better make sure you meditate that day because I'm a king at getting in people's heads. So
we're playing from the senior tees, right?
Oh no. Hey, just because Alan's going to be a senior doesn't mean we have to.
Oh, I can't wait. We'll have to record that, and you can release that to your athletes. We'll have a bet.
There will definitely be a lot of Instagram lives going on that day.
I love it.
All right, boys. Well, hey, you guys all be safe. Thank you again, and we'll definitely be in contact soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, boss.
Thank you.
Have a good one, dude.
Thank you for tuning in to Full Reps Baseball. For access to all future content, please visit our website at www.fullrepstraining.com and subscribe to our mailing list at the bottom of our homepage. If you're interested in training at Full Reps or simply want to reach out to ask our team a question, drop us an email at support@fullrepstraining.com. Thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you soon.